CAM, WBEE HD2, and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. Welcome into the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, where the voice of the Rochester fan is heard. Pull up a stool and join us at 866-4326. This is WGR Rochester, and the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia is on now.
Proudly 585, 2 hours of sports talk excellence coming your way. You found the Sports Bar. Pull up a stool, join us. Come on in. Gene Battaglia with you. Our phone number 585-866-4326. You can watch us on YouTube and Twitch. We're on 95.7 FM, AM 950, and always free in the Odyssey app, which you can download today. And if 1 to 3 doesn't suit you, and if you're listening back, you could just kind of listen whenever it's convenient for you. That is the world that we live in. Today, we're going to talk some football on the show today. We are 1 week out from the NFL draft. What should the Bills do at 26? What should they do the rest of the draft? 2 o'clock hour today, we'll talk to Chris Trapasso, draft analyst. He's got his draft grade book, which I highly recommend. You can go check that out. Good to talk to Chris. Talk about a guy from the 585, Chris Trapasso, joining us here in hour number 2. Coming up at the bottom of this hour, he is the Buffalo Bills reporter for WGR. Sal Capaccio will be joining us, and it's a great time to talk to Sal because, yes, we will certainly talk about the draft. Yes, we'll talk about how this Bills roster is constructed right now, and we will also kind of talk about what Sal has in terms of the Always Game Day in Buffalo podcast, because it's always one of the best episodes, if not the best, in my opinion, he puts out anywhere. It's the annual conversation with Mike North, who is the VP for scheduling, basically, when it comes to the NFL. He is the guy that heads up the process, and a lot goes into this. You have TV partners, you have wishes from teams, you have travel, all the factors that go into coming up with an NFL schedule. And it was always this week, the week before the draft, we would get the NFL schedule kind of dropped on us. And now we're kind of conditioned to mid-May. And we don't know the date for mid-May. I did listen to the pod, and Mike North wouldn't give it up. They might be working on a thing or two. They might actually be looking at the draft. There was one year where Tampa played Tennessee week 1. Oh, that's kind of convenient because you had the top 2 quarterbacks taken, Winston against Mariota. So there are some kitschy things that certainly they'll be working on, or maybe there's a trade somewhere around the draft that they will use to their advantage to highlight early in the schedule. We'll talk to Sal Capaccio, but not to steal a thunder. There is one game. There's one takeaway from listening to his pod. It's that, the NFL is going to highlight one game in particular on the Bills' schedule. We'll get to talk about that with Sal here coming up. Your calls, again, 585-866-4326. That is our number. 3T, depending on how you want to refer to him. Terrible time, Timmy. Terrible take, Timmy. He's not terrible. He's actually a pretty good dude. It's just that your takes doesn't really seem like they're terrible. And then when you're around, like, terrible things happen. Like yesterday was a flat tire. You're back the day before. Are we healthy? Is everything fine?
No, everything stinks. I think I'm worse now than I was a couple days ago, but we're fighting through it, and it is terrible. I will acknowledge that today. I'm just getting through it. It's my dad's birthday.
Happy
good
birthday,
day.
Coach. Happy birthday, Coach. Good man. And you're a good man too, Timmy. But again, self-care, water,
it's hard.
Nutrition. It's not hard. The hardest day is day one. Day one. Come on. You can do this, bud. See if you can do it. And then all of a sudden, like, you'll be like, oh, wow, I feel better.
It is nice to feel.
That's always a good thing. Hey, well, we don't have a Sabre playoff schedule, and this is, I got to hand it to Jeremy White, who you hear mornings here. He put out a poll. It's like one of those Twitter polls, like, okay, but like, what is the answer? Thing that drives you nuts most about the NHL: point system, playoff seedings, officiating and reviews, or the fact that we don't have a playoff schedule. Now, if you compare this to the NFL doesn't exactly know, but they will tell you if you're the better seed, hey, here's the time for your game, and they would let you know kind of in advance. And we're conditioned, hey, it's week 18, and let's tune in coming up Sunday Night Football in this game we don't necessarily care about, but, hey, they're going to tell us the playoff schedule for the following week, and we all can kind of anticipate that. But here we are, 48 hours roughly until the start of the NHL schedule. Actually, I can tell you now it's 50. And we still don't have every game time. We do know this. The Sabres will be starting off at home on Sunday. Sunday the 19th. What time? I think we can kind of make an educated guess. Before we get to that, here are the dates we do know from some of the schedules that series they know are locked in and opponents and whatnot. You have Ottawa, Carolina starting off 3 o'clock on Saturday, followed 2.5 hours later by Minnesota and Dallas, followed 2.5 hours later by that, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. So we had that yesterday, that Philly and Pittsburgh was going to be on the Saturday, but they weren't telling us the game time, but that makes all the sense in the world, right? Primetime game, Sidney Crosby. Philadelphia is a big market that'll pull, and Dallas is a big market, but I don't know. I'm going to guess they care about hockey more in Philadelphia than they do in Dallas. Maybe I'm offending somebody on that. That seems right to me that they're laying that out. Now, there's going to be one game coming up on Monday night. It's going to be two Pacific teams, and it's not Colorado. Colorado is going to be playing on Sunday. So there's going to be 4 games in total on Sunday. And I think it's pretty obvious. 4 games in total. 2 involving teams from the Western Conference that are going to be hosting. One being Vegas. So Vegas and Utah. That time to be determined. Colorado against Wild Card 2. That's to be determined, whether that's Anaheim or say it's the Kings. You've got Montreal and Tampa Bay, and then you've got Boston and Buffalo. So Boston and Buffalo cannot or should not be the 1 o'clock game because the NHL would not be doing themselves any favors. With the NBA, okay, here's another example. The NBA is way out ahead of things. Now, you could say it's simply because of the Olympics, and that's why we're finishing up late. That's fair. But the NBA got to pick their spots, and the NBA is putting the Celtics Sunday 1 o'clock. So you know the Sabres and Boston is not going to be Sunday 1 o'clock. I would also say if it's going to be Sunday night or Sunday, dare I say late night, which that's possible. If you're out in Vegas, why not? Colorado and Vegas seem like later start times to me. They could put that at 4 o'clock, but I would think that's going to be late. I would think that Montreal, Tampa Bay is your 1 o'clock game on Sunday or 2 o'clock, whenever it would be. And then the Sunday late window game would be Boston at Buffalo. And I think that would be just kind of fine, which, hey, let's hope from the Amerks standpoint that we're not listening to Don. Okay, you want to listen to Don. He's on our channel. Yes. I'm saying from the standpoint that the Amerks have everything wrapped up. There's nothing to play for the Amerks Saturday or Sunday if things go according to plan on Friday. So last night, wasn't counting on Belleville to do us any favors. They didn't. They didn't even score a goal. They were home. Sidebar, why do they have a team? Every time I watch tape from Belleville, just a sea of green seats. Who is their owner? Take that franchise and go somewhere else where people will actually show up. And don't give me that, well, it was a Wednesday night. What do you expect? Okay, Friday, Saturday, the playoffs. Nobody ever goes to a game up there. I digress. There are plenty of markets that would gladly take in an AHL team. I digress. Belleville's not going to the postseason, so who cares? Utica still hanging on by a thread, and Utica gets the 2 points last night. So the Amerks magic number still remains at 1. If the Amerks simply go to overtime tomorrow night against Cleveland, then the Amerks are in. Case closed. And with a team with all these injuries, and quite frankly, all these kids, that's something where you can all just kind of nod our head and be like, okay, that's good. I'll take my chances here against Toronto or Cleveland. Cleveland, by the way, I saw the Cavs playoff schedule come out, and that would not interfere whatsoever with any play-in tournament. It ends up being the Monsters. I would anticipate that being, say, a Wednesday or Thursday start, and then maybe the Amerks are home Friday or Saturday. The AHL wants to get that 4-5, I don't want to say playing matchup. I don't think that's how they refer to it. Just that round, get that out of the way, and then you could schedule everything out. Remember, that's how the Amerks kind of had to wait around forever and a day last year. 866-4326 is our phone number to call. Sal Capaccio will be coming up here in a little bit. So the Sabres, for their playoff purposes, Sunday, and for the Amerks, who finish up in Hershey 3 o'clock on Sunday, I hope that's just a footnote on Sunday. Like, okay, all right, the Amerks lost to Hershey. Who cares? Let's get on here with the postseason. We get everything kind of rolling toward that. That was kind of probably the vibe last night. Sabres in Dallas, kind of, I guess. A lot of the regulars for the Sabres sitting out. The Sabres still get the 1 point. Sabres winning their division, and that was kind of the benefit there. So we'll talk hockey on the show tomorrow, certainly, as we'll be joined by Matthew Fairburn for Fairburn Friday, as he will be making his return. 866-4326 is our phone number to call. Lots to get to. We have the Red Wings continuing their series. They beat Yasevich out at the stadium yesterday, which that's kind of cool, or the ballpark. Stadium, ballpark, field. like
It's all new.
Yards, yeah, like whatever you want to call it. Like, I'm waiting for something completely different, right? It's got to be either a ballpark, stadium, field, yards, Camden. Yeah, it's been now it's ballpark.
Let's just call it the bank.
The bank. That was what they used to call the arena in Buffalo way back when, because nobody knew the name. I don't even know if HSBC is still a bank, but they so many things have gotten bought out and sold over the years, and it was like, oh, okay. And then we just called it the bank for a while because it was Marine Midland. Let's see if I can name it. It was Marine Midland to HSBC to First Niagara.
Yep.
All these banks that are
no longer
put a marker in the graveyard for them. It's a little tombstone, and now it's Key Bank. And I'm sure it'll be something else in our time here. So, sure, whatever. The Red Wings series continuing tonight. Nighthawks will wrap up on Sunday afternoon. Told that the Amerk game on Friday, by the way, they have crossed 10,000.
Awesome.
Fantastic. And if you're somebody that is yet to turn in your vouchers or somebody that is yet to buy your tickets, I'm recommending just kind of do that now, because I love that arena filled up downtown. And I love the fact that the Nighthawks are back, something we didn't, we don't take for granted, and just getting people downtown. I'm a big champion of that, certainly. Following up on a story from yesterday being about the Live Tour. Like, wait a second. Now, I said this yesterday, and I'm just doing this from the Brian Windhorst putting the two fingers in the air sort of deal, where Phil Mickelson kind of opted out of the Masters and went to the family concerns card. And how dare anybody question family concerns or whatever it is. Okay, but I don't know if it's related or not, but I just thought it was curious that, hey, a mere 4 days after the Masters end, actually it was 3 days at the time, 72 hours after the Masters end, we have this report that Live Golf is going belly up and that everybody has been called into New York City. Well, the answer on Live Golf going belly up, Tim, I'm going to say the correct answer is yes, eventually. They're doomed. So Live Golf will finish out the season. For no one cares about the tournament in Mexico City. Couldn't tell you anything, but this idea of a globe-trotting world tour with team play, because the PGA Tour is so bad and so evil, and we're just going to, we're going to trade. And these golfers, they were mercenaries, and you could debate, was that a better job, or you just take the paycheck? And the first clue to me was when Brooks Koepka, they let him kind of, all right, you know what, you want to go back to the PGA Tour, and I don't know where that stands actually with Brooks Koepka returning, but highly unusual that you're going to sign a deal, and they're like, okay, you're out of the deal. Live Golf will finish out the season, but following the season, there will be no more money coming in from the Saudi Public Investment Fund.
It was a good run.
Well, you could say, what was the reason for that? Was it actually, hey, we want to make sure that things in the world right now are in a good place, or did the Saudis realize, like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Like, literally, it's losing $200 million a year. Apparently, like, if you totaled up everything, it's over $1 billion of cost since this thing came on the scene. And if it's losing $200 million a year, okay, we might have something called Live next year, but how are you paying DeChambeau? How are you paying Rahm? How are you paying any of these guys? The answer is you won't. And I can't wait, because I'm just going to sit here with my popcorn and just see how this all kind of plays out. And before you're coming at me with this objection, no, I'm not a xenophobe. I'm not. But I am somebody that just kind of wonders what was the whole motivation behind this. And they could say it was sports washing, and I would listen to that. Or maybe they just thought they could kind of just take over something here. And to me, I'm glad this is kind of going away, because I thought it potentially could have been the beginning of other things. That in a world with NIL, what's to say there is crooked is a strong word, but an administration somewhere in the Power 5 conference that will look at this and decide, yeah, you know what, that's okay to take that money and let's go fund ourselves a football team and win a national championship. I'm sorry, like, there's got to be some sort of guidelines here. Or maybe I'm just naive, that, like, we've always, since the dawn of time, whatever you want, if you have the money, you can go buy it. And in college sports today, if you want a national championship and you're Mark Cuban, don't give me that, like, Cignetti is such a great coach. Bull. He's a good coach, but without that money, he would belong at Cincinnati. Okay? It's the money behind him. And I've always wondered if, like, okay, if the Public Investment Fund wanted to go in that direction. For some reason, they chose golf, and probably because, well, around the world, do they care about Alabama football? No. But you want to kind of plant your flag as a world leader, let's form our own golf tour. But they were just way overly ambitious. And the rhetoric and the talking, and, hey, I think in business, there's fine ways. Like, you can be a good competitor, or you can just be kind of a prick. Being a good competitor, that's what you know. If you're a competing pizza company or competing radio station or whatever it is, you should, like, be allowed to compete. And there's always going to be a competitor. If there's not, what are you doing? And bad mouthing the competition, I'm sorry, that just bounces back on you. And I'm sure somebody might pull the tape from me years ago, Tim, but this is what I kind of learned along the way. Like, there's nothing good when you're just bad-mouthing. And when Liv came out and Norman flapping his gums, and for Mickelson, he made that choice, and I can't wave my finger at any individual golfer for making that choice, because I don't know their family situation, and that was life-changing money. But guess what? It's going to be gone. It's gone.
Yeah, there's a difference between confidence and arrogance, and they came out arrogant rather than confident.
Foolishly arrogant. Foolishly arrogant to the point where, like, what? Whoa. And to the point where, like, hey, we're, like, we kind of like our majors here. We kind of like some of the things. Sure, there's other, not naive, there's the DP World Tour, there's other tours out there. And then something changed, and this is where, like, the timeline of this, somebody from the PGA or somewhere here must have figured out, hey, this isn't anything we have to worry about, because all this talk of a merger and everything else just kind of went by the wayside. Kind of never, ever happened. So we can't do an obit today for Liv. They're going to be around. They have their TV contract with Fox or CW Network or whatever. And the ratings are nothing. I'm not kidding you. Like, nobody watches that. Nobody. And especially, like, this time of year. Like, if you had to rank everything, like, where does Liv come? It's not in your top 10. It shouldn't be. There's just a lot of great content out there. And if you're somebody that, hey, this is the only time of year I watch hockey, welcome aboard. We're the show that is going to talk hockey here And we're not going to talk down to you. Quite honestly, I can't talk down to you. All right? We're just going to kind of figure this out all together.
We're new here.
Sal Capaccio will join us next. And I want to just kind of get his vibe of, everything out there in Buffalo, too, because, my gosh, for the first time in 15 years, we legitimately will have Sabres playoff hockey while we have an NFL draft week going on. Just going to be unbelievable week coming up here in Western New York. And then, throwing in an Amerks playoff series there if they can just get the 1 point somewhere over this weekend. Your calls are welcome. It's the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line at 866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com.
Rochester Sports Update.
So game one of Sabres-Bruins will be on Sunday. We do not have a game time just as of now. Head coach Lindy Ruff says he knows, and his team knows, who they are.
Well, I think we know what our identity is. We've battled hard all year. The consistency level of our team has been excellent. You know, the hard compete, the blocking shots, all that part of that game is, you don't get to where we got if you don't have that part of the game. And I think they've proved that. But we remained pretty darn consistent for the last 4 months.
Sal Capaccio, WGR, and the Always Game Day in Buffalo podcast will join us next year in the Sports Bar. Amherst have 3 games left in the regular season. They need to get 1 point to get back to the postseason. Cleveland, the opponent tomorrow night at the Blue Cross. Rochester Red Wings continue their series tonight at the Stadium against Buffalo. Yankees and Angels coming up at 1:35. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM, AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Rochester's home for live sports and the best sports talk anywhere. The Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
I always love this week, going back a few years ago when we would get to the NFL schedule and we just kind of picture how the fall would kind of play out. And now we're just kind of conditioned. The idea, okay, we understand it's going to be in May, and you know what? Quite honestly, there's so much going on. And Sal Capaccio, he and Matt Beauvais always have their conversation with Mike North. Mike North being the Vice President of NFL Broadcast Planning and Scheduling, talking about the upcoming schedule. And Sal, good enough to give us a few minutes here. Sal, also the host of the Always Game Day in Buffalo podcast. And Sal, before we talk about the schedule and before we talk about, the draft, which is only, 1 week from today, give us kind of a vibe. Like, the Buffalo Sabres are back in the postseason. Sal, thanks for your time. How are you today?
I'm good. I mean, it's really weird, right? Because this time of year, generally for the last 14 years, we're just knee deep into the draft because the Sabre season is over. We're talking about maybe a GM change, a coach change, who they're going to draft, but it's all about the NFL draft. This year, the draft has kind of taken a back seat, the NFL draft, because while obviously, number one, the Sabres are super hot. I mean, number two, I'd say because the Bills are drafting 26th, it's not the best draft in the world. But, even for me, Gene, I cover the NFL. That's my job. And I am so into the Sabres. I did a 2-hour show today. I don't think I talked about the Bills draft. It was literally talking about the Sabres for 2 hours because that's the vibe in this city right now.
Yeah, the vibe here is kind of similar, Sal, and I'll give you an example where there's a weekend a few weeks back where, wait a second, Zach Metza, why are you here? You belong up in Buffalo. And usually when players get called up to Buffalo, people bitch, and people are like, no, you belong. Everybody's into Sabres hockey here. I'm assuming, too, and this is kind of speculation, but it certainly seems like we could have a game 3 going straight up against the NFL draft. And, Sal, I'm going to need to have 2 monitors working here coming up Thursday night.
You're right about that. It's going to be kind of crazy. I mean, would have been more wild, I think, if the game would be at home, but it won't be. Game 3, assuming that would be game 3, because we know now the Sabres-Bruins is game 1 is Sunday. We just don't know the time yet. We do know it's Sunday. So let's just say Sunday, Monday, or Sunday, Tuesday. Doesn't matter. Game 3 is going to be Thursday because Boston, TD Garden, has a concert Wednesday night. So game 3 is going to be Thursday. I think it's almost certainty at this point to think about it that way. And then you have the NFL draft. Let's say that was at home in Buffalo. That would be even crazier to have those 2 events happening, at the same time. There's a night, but people obviously are at home. They can flip back and forth. The NFL draft, the Sabres. It's going to be really interesting to see how it happens. And we haven't had this quote unquote problem in a long time in Buffalo. In fact, I don't think it's ever happened where the night of the draft and the Sabres play on the same night. But either way, because the NFL draft. Here's what's funny, Gene. This question came up recently now that I think about it. If someone asked if this has ever happened, the last time it couldn't have because the NFL went to prime time, and literally the Sabres haven't been in the playoffs since the NFL went to prime time on the draft on Thursday night.
I do remember some, Saturday, Sunday game. Okay, it's a Sunday afternoon and it's a late rounds.
Right.
But this is going to be pretty wild that we're going to be pulled in. And, for us here in Rochester, there's a pretty good chance the Amherst are playing Cleveland, let's say Wednesday or Thursday night here. Sal Capaccio joining us here as, hey, the NFL draft, and this is always, I think, one of, if not your best podcast every year, when you bring on Mike North, Vice President of NFL Broadcast Planning and Scheduling, talking about, I think he drops a little hint here or there. Some takeaways here, Sal, after watching it. And again, it's up on YouTube or wherever you get your fine audio, including the Odyssey app. The Bills home opener. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be week 1, but I certainly got the feeling that the NFL wants to put a big old spotlight on, hey, everybody, check out this new stadium here in Western New York.
Yeah, listen, the Bills want that. The NFL wants that. I think it's going to happen in some capacity. They're going to highlight, Highmark Stadium week 1. What I thought was interesting about what Mike said was, look, it's a story. The opening of the stadium is a story up until kickoff. Then it's not a story. Then it's a game. And it's the Bills. The Bills resonate anyway. I mean, they're always going to be in consideration for primetime. They get primetime games, whether they're playing at New Highmark, Old Highmark, or somewhere else. They're always going to be in that conversation. So I think all of those things coming together means that it will be a primetime game. The question is, would that be week 1? Would it be week 2? I mean, he even said, he talked about Sunday night, Monday night. He even said something to the effect of, I could put that on Thursday night. They could, the league. Put that on Thursday night. Amazon have Fitz go in there and tear off a shirt, right? I mean, that could happen too. So you don't know exactly what that looks like. And then honestly, the opponents, every opponent would fit. They have such a great, tough home schedule this year. You could make an argument for all these teams that are, coming to Highmark this year, and Kansas City and Baltimore and Detroit and Chicago. And then of course, New England going to the Super Bowl, and what that means now, and even Miami and the Jets, right? 2 division rivals. So we'll see where it lands. I think it will be a primetime game. I do wonder if they want to make it maybe week 2, because then they can kind of highlight everything else week 1. Seattle opening game with the banner, Australia, and then they can kind of do a lot more of the just kind of own each week in some sort of capacity like that.
Yeah, I also think too, and there's a phrase in our business called shoulder programming, meaning, hey, it's the game, but there's other shows that revolve around the game, and it would make a lot of sense if you could put it on Monday with a McAfee, and then you go to the NFL Live show, and a whole day from Buffalo, because, Sal, there are other markets that Chicago I'm looking at, hey, look what they did here in Western New York. This can be yours here too. I would not object whatsoever if that were the Bills were going to get, and as you point out too in the podcast, there's Monday night's only one game now. It's a standalone one game, no more double headers. Monday night, your thought on maybe that being a possibility here?
Sure. I mean, I think I could see Monday night, and I think everything you brought up is right. I mean, Pat McAfee, and he always has Brandon Beane on anyway. You could highlight the stadium with McAfee. Like I said, what did he think about what he said? Mike North said, it's the stadium's a story until kickoff. Well, they can make the stadium a story. They can have it all about it. They can do a lot of different things, moving into the new stadium. So for sure, I think it's all on the table.
Yeah. Sal Capaccio, WGR, who you hear on WGR Rochester. I guess you're the parent, we're the affiliate. I guess, Sal, you can hear 10 to noon weekdays here in Rochester, as well as WGR 550. Sal, is another thing too. I got the sense that there is one game I would be stunned if it were Sunday at 1 o'clock. Now, Mike North never says anything absolute. He can't. But I think he made it kind of clear that there's one opponent being Green Bay that that they would certainly like to highlight, Buffalo at Green Bay coming up here in the schedule.
Yeah, he did. I didn't think he'd answer that question. My co-host Matt Bove said, is there one game that kind of feels special to you, looks different? He said, yeah, Green Bay. The Bills haven't played at the Packers at Lambeau since Josh's rookie year. That feels special. And he didn't say this, but I kind of got the feeling that it would be a late season standalone game, maybe a holiday, maybe a Black Friday, maybe a Christmas. Feels like that's going to happen, like Buffalo at Green Bay, some sort of standalone primetime national television or holiday type of game. And, that kind of stood out to him. He even said it feels like a one-off, and that's why I say that. A one-off, what does that mean? A one-off to me means standalone, only game on TV everybody's watching.
Yeah, there's a report today, and this I didn't get addressed when you recorded this because it's just kind of a breaking story. But we knew, all right, the NFL is not doing the Monday night doubleheaders anymore. Where is that quote-unquote inventory going? And you might have a package here for YouTube Do we know where that would kind of go? Would that be an additional weeknight, or would that be kind of the Wednesday before? Do we have any idea if that ends up happening, Sal? What, in your conversation there with Mike?
You mean I'm sorry, the doubleheaders that are going away?
The doubleheaders that are going away, those 5 games.
Where they go?
Where do they go?
So here it's kind of confusing because I think that I think like when you think about it, you don't know the games yet, right? We don't know which games those are. We don't know it would be, I don't know, let's say Bears Lions on a Monday night, right? So you can't say that game is going to a certain spot. So you have to term them as what Mike said, that he calls them assets, right? They're assets. We don't know what the asset is yet, but it's an asset. And there were 5 games scheduled to be doubleheader Monday night games. Those are assets. So now you're taking those off. Those 5 games, wherever teams they were that would have been on Monday night, will not go to a Sunday 1 p.m. slot. They will now go somewhere on the big-time prime schedule, whether that's a Thursday night, but most likely the new stuff, right? So let's just say a Black Friday, a Saturday late in the season. So now you have 5 games to add to that plethora of games they can distribute to those other properties, if that makes sense.
Okay, so, yeah, instead of like 1 Black Friday game, we might get 2 now, Sal?
That's what he said. Yeah, he did say that. He said they could play 2 Black Friday games. They could play a Wednesday night Thanksgiving game. So now instead of squeezing your Sundays away to that, you have 5 games to play with to put there.
So the Green Bay kind of conversation, you also had, the home opener. Were there any other takeaways that people can go check out here in the pod that you came away with from Mike North there, Sal?
I mean, I don't think it's too much of a surprise, but he confirmed that the Bills are still the Bills, and they're still Josh Allen, and they're one of the top teams that they look at every year to put on their national schedule. You're going to get a lot of that again this year. Let's remember the NFL. 4:25 p.m. on a Sunday is a very big window for them. Like, it's a huge watched, spot for them. So when you say prime time, we all think prime time and, is the night game, and that's traditionally prime time. But to the NFL, putting a game, a really big team and name on at 4:25 on a Sunday is a big deal, and they get a lot of eyeballs. So that obviously I expect a lot of that again this year for the Bills, like they did last year, even in home games. And then just big picture, Gene, I mean, they're gonna flip the 17th game rotation starting in 2029. I did not know this. So right now, every even year, like this year, the NFC has the extra home game. Every odd year, the AFC has the extra home game because the 17th game is played either all AFC at NFC or all NFC at AFC. And because you're going to run your 8-year cycle of when they started the 17th game, in a couple of years from now, they're going to flip it so you're not always getting the same division, going to the same division every year again for another cycle. That said, I think by then we could get 18 games. Mm-hmm. And he even talked about how they are now starting to process and think about what that would look like.
Yeah, that's that was a good little nugget there too. And Matt also asked, hey, like in terms of like that oddball, like this year for the Bills, it's going to be the Rams. That doesn't sound like Sal, and that's going to change anytime soon, at least not until 2029 there in terms of that rotation. Yeah. Sal Capaccio joining us here. We are 1 week away from the NFL draft. So any other time I'm like, hey, what do you think about this prospect? What do you think about this prospect? Let me start here, Sal, because the defense for Buffalo this year, we know it's a 4-3. It's a 3-4. And yes, we can talk about the wide receivers, and I would not complain. Bills fans would not complain if you took a wide receiver. But right now, in terms of the needs on defense and this new alignment, does anything kind of stand out to you, whether that's edge rusher or maybe a linebacker? What would be the needs on that side of the ball right now, Sal, in terms of what you still need to fill in here?
Well, I think their biggest need is interior defensive line because they have players, but I don't know if it's the exact type of players they want to fit right there. And like, you could put Deion Walker can play like a nose tackle if they want. I just think that would be maybe taking away Deion Walker's best strengths, which is his ability to play a little bit more outside there and, down the line as a 3 technique, let's say, and use his athleticism and not have to clog up. You don't want Deion Walker doing that. You want him being at his best. I always compare it to, if you don't have much of a point guard and you take your shooting guard and put him at point guard, now you're losing 2 spots, right? You know what I mean? Because your best guy at one spot is playing the other and he's not even the best guy there. So I think it's the same thing. So I think they need interior D-line. I think they like the guys they have. That, to me, is the biggest need. Now, that said, the question I have is, and we don't know this, what do they think about Dorian Williams starting next to Terrell Bernard? What do they think about Michael Hoyt coming back from injury? If we know the answers to those questions, we can get a little bit down the road of, okay, if they don't believe that Dorian Williams can be a true 17-game starter, absolutely off-ball linebacker is something they could do. If they really believe in Dorian Williams, which, by the way, I think Dorian Williams is the perfect type of linebacker they need. See ball, get ball, downhill, right? He's fast, and he could play next to Terrell Bernard, but is he the actual guy they like? And he's going into the last year of his deal. And then Michael Hoyt, what is his injury status? You have Bradley Chubb. You have Greg Rousseau. If you think Michael Hoyt is going to be available most of the season and you draft an edge rusher, like, where's he playing and how much? So I just think that, like, those questions need to be answered. And then, if they could really find a safety to solidify for years to come, because C.J. Gardner-Johnson's on a one-year deal. He's kind of a wild card. We know that. And, Jim Leonard, it's a very important position for him. It's what he played. Certainly you could see that. I just think that they probably right now think they have their starting secondary, and the 26th spot overall needs to be a guy who plays. So I need to know what they think about Dorian Williams, what they think about Michael Hoyt's injury. In the meantime, I think they could still use help up front.
Yeah. One question, another about a guy that certainly we know, Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver's not coming off the field, but where is he best served? Does his skill set can he be that defensive end, Sal? Is that going to be a tough transition, or is he just such a good player you put him wherever and line him up?
So we have to get out of the thinking of a true 3-4. This is not what the Bills are going to run. Ed Oliver does not become a defensive end, even if he's not playing nose tackle. I've been trying to kind of do it and say it the best way I can for people to understand, because I know these are footballish terms and things like that. But the best way to describe it, Gene, is the Bills are going to have what's called 5-man spacing, a 5-man surface. It's not going to be 3 guys down and 5 guys behind them. It's going to be 5 guys up front, maybe 4, and you're going to go with 3 linebackers behind them. And the way to describe it would be this. You have a nose guard. That probably won't be Ed Oliver. It can be. Let's just say that right now would be Deion Walker, for example. You put him there. Then outside of the nose guard, at what we call the 3 technique, which is outside the shoulder of the guard on offense, that would be Ed Oliver and TJ Sanders. So you got in the middle, Deion Walker. Mm-hmm. Next to him on the left, you'd have Ed Oliver. On the right, you'd have TJ Sanders. Outside of them, you have your defensive end / edge rushers, Greg Rousseau, Bradley Chubb. And one of them could step back and go off the line, or they could step on the line. So you're actually going with 5 men up front, which means basically Ed Oliver is not a defensive end.
So Rousseau and Chubb on the end, did they play a lot in their career just kind of standing up, not putting their hand down, Sal?
Sure, they can. Have they done it? Greg Rousseau did a lot of it in Miami before he came in the league. Bradley Chubb's done it in different systems. They can stand up. They can put their hand down. I mean, I think sometimes too much is made about it because these guys are athletes. That's what they do. To me, the question is like having them drop back sometimes, how much you want to do that, how far off the line of scrimmage you are, and what we call the wide 9 technique, which just means you're even farther outside the last guy on the end. So your spacing is different. So I don't get too caught up in hand down, hand not down. Sometimes it's just comfort. Some guys, you might just say whatever you're more comfortable with. Put your hand on the ground, not put your hand on the ground. But they're the edge rushers. They're the defensive ends. Even when we hear 3-4, people have to start forgetting what we know about a 3-4. This is not the 1980s or 90s anymore. Teams use way different types of alignments and way different what we call hybrids, hybrid types of systems and things like that. They're going to be versatile, they're going to be hybrid and multiple. And that's going to be 3 guys, 3 defensive linemen, and traditionally as we know it, and then outside of them will be your edge rushers.
I can't wait. That is going to be a lot of fun, and the Bills are certainly going to need depth at every position. Sal, you're covering the Bills in the wrong era in terms of this. Like years ago, there would be Chris Berman who talked to the cabbie, and he knew what the pick would be. Like you don't have any idea. I don't have any idea. We can kind of speculate. But I do believe this, that trading down makes a hell of a lot of sense, even though that's not exciting in terms of, we're waiting around. Okay, but just to kind of recoup the picks here, you manage the grid of 90 there, and the idea that, hey, on that grid of 90, when it ultimately gets down to the 53, the Bills are just going to need more competition. Your thoughts here on the possibility of Buffalo trading down in this draft?
I think it's very possible. More than anything for me, it's because Brandon Beane doesn't have a second-round pick, and he'd like to probably replenish that a little bit. And on top of that, it's just not considered a great draft. If you are drafting 26, most likely, if you stay there, the players available to you are not going to have first-round grades on your board. Almost every year, no NFL team has 26 first-round grades. Almost never happens. So, and I know we can debate like how grading is done and all that, but just I've talked to enough personnel people to tell you, generally a good draft, you might have 20. A regular draft, you're going to have between 15 and 20. So by the time you get to the 20th player, all the actual first-round grades and talents that you have on your board are gone. So now you get to 26. You're sitting there and going, well, we take a guy, we like him, that's fine, but we're literally taking a first-round pick that we don't have a first-round grade on. And that's not fair to the player who now has that expectation that, you drafted in the first round, but he truly wasn't a first round. But you never tell people that, right? You don't go out and go, well, he really wasn't a first round talent in our mind. You can never say that, right?
No, like it's always like a Brandon Beane thing too. Like how many? Well, we only had X number, and that's why we traded up. Whatever the Bills take at 26, or whether that's up or down, hey, we had the first round grade on it for sure.
Yeah, right. And but that's just not realistic. It's not going to happen. So I think to get proper value of that pick, it's very possible they could trade down, and then you get into the second round. The issue is all teams are thinking this, Gene. How many teams are going to draft to 26 if all their first-round grades are gone also as well and trade to 26? You know what I mean? Like, the only way I could see that is if maybe there's a quarterback, like a Ty Simpson, who falls down, because then you're paying more of a premium. Root for quarterbacks to fall. Because that's the best way, if you want the Bills to trade, because that's the best way for a team to say, you know what, we'll go back into the first round and we'll make that deal.
Yeah, like, if the quarterback from Alabama is still sitting there at 26, bingo. That would make all the sense in the world. Final one, Sal. I don't know if you have a draft crush, but if I may share mine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. He's a wide receiver, 5'11", runs exquisite routes with speed, and he is from Rochester. Okay, he moved away when he was 3, but his father's Bills Mafia. Can we draft Casey Concepcion, Sal?
I love him. I do. I love him. I'd be fine with it. I'm fine with Casey Concepcion. If they go wide receiver, I mean, there's a lot of guys in this class that are really good, but I actually think he fits exactly what the Bills need. From a route running standpoint, getting open standpoint, and the fact that he returns, like, people have to think about this a little bit too differently, which is it's not just wide receiver. Right now, who's their return man? I mean, Are you counting on McCole Hardman to make the team and be the return man? Because it's Khalil Shakir. Do you really want Khalil Shakir being your return man? Like, they could take a guy that could help them in both areas and not have to use a roster spot. I think that would be ideal for this team, and that's Casey Concepcion as well. So I'm down with it, buddy. If they go Casey Concepcion, I have no problem with that. And you could tell me you don't have a first-round grade. I don't care. I just think they need a guy that can help the offense and that can help, return.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad we got the Sal endorsement on our draft crush here.
I don't have a draft crush. I do like Casey Concepcion. I'm really starting to warm up to Caden McDonald, the defensive lineman from Ohio State. I think that would really fit their run need, their run fit, what they want. I just don't know if he's going to be on the field enough to justify something like that. And the fact that you now get a crowded room, right? You do have Deion Walker, TJ Sanders, you have Deion Walker, and then Dwayne Carter, coming back from injury. And, Landon Jackson. That's another guy we didn't talk about. Landon Jackson, Javon Solomon. The Bills, by the way, have been very interestingly bringing up Javon Solomon's name a lot, like in the offseason, as a guy that they like. And I just think that they have more plans for him than we probably think, and you're going to see a little more from him. Landon Jackson's coming back. So, and then, there are obviously, like, I like Thieneman, the safety I like a lot. So there's guys I like, but I just don't think this is the kind of draft where I'm in love with anybody.
Sal, tell our audience about the Always Game Day in Buffalo podcast, where they can certainly listen in and, when it drops.
Well, listen, it's up now when it comes to the Mike North episode that you referenced, and I appreciate that. It is our favorite episode to do every year. I mean, we love football, but we love the draft. We're geeks and nerds for the draft. And it's up right now. You can find it on my YouTube page at Sal Sports. That's where you can find me on all my social handles, on Twitter, Instagram, all that. But Sal Sports on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. All of your latest episodes are always dropped, and that's on the video side. You want to watch the video, and these days you can put the video on, just listen to the audio. You can do it that way too. But also wherever you pod, iTunes, Spotify, and of course the Odyssey app. You can go there and get it. So yeah, it's great. It's an hour and a half. Chill out, do the laundry, go outside, cut the lawn, listen to it. Pretty cool.
Sal, appreciate the time. It's going to be a busy, busy week or 2 or 3. Let's see if the hockey keeps going here. Thanks, Sal, for your time today. Appreciate it, bud.
You got it, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks, Sal Capaccio, who you hear 10 to noon in the Extra Point Show and the Always Game Day in Buffalo podcast. 3T, Terrible Time Timmy. And again, I don't know his terrible take. That's what makes it so glorious. Sometimes will make me angry. The rare occasion he'll spark thought.
You're going to love this one.
I'm guessing I'm not.
No, you are.
Said that.
Not sarcasm. You're going to force hate it now.
I know you well enough over the years that that's your tone that says I'm not going to like it. I see if I'm right on that. Tim will be next. We'll also talk to Chris DePasso coming up next hour. You want more Bills draft talk? We got more Bills draft talk. Chris DePasso joining us hour number 2. 585-866-4326. Gene Battaglia with you here on WGR Rochester.
So much action. Flower City, the sports bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
All right, thanks to Sal Capaccio. If you missed that, just download the Odyssey app and go back and listen in the Rewind feature. Chris Passo will be joining us to talk a little more NFL draft. By the way, about the draft, they have announced, the NFL, who will be announcing these selections. Each team can have a former player announce the picks. I don't know what round this will be, but representing the Buffalo Bills is former linebacker Shane Conlon. Now, Shane Conlon, you remember him, run-stuffing linebacker, and if you don't, that's going way back. That was like right at the dawn of the Super Bowl era. I'm just curious if Shane Conlon's going to get booed. In Pittsburgh, will they remember him going back that far as a Penn State linebacker, or will it be, here's former Buffalo Bill linebacker Shane Conlon in the polite applause from the Steeler crowd? Or will it be Shane Conlon, oh, that guy, that Penn State guy? And folks, you don't know, Pitt and Penn State don't exactly get along. It's my favorite time of the day.
It's now time for Terrible Time Timmy's Terrible Take of the Day on WGR Rochester. WGR Rochester. It's Terrible Time Timmy.
Oh, rousing rendition yet again.
Let's go get a soda and
just
some
love it.
candy. Yeah, every time I hear that, I think like we're at a drive-in movie theater. Let's go get a snack.
Wearing
Here's
a pinwheel
Timmy, pinwheel hat. Honk, honk. Tim the Clown joining us here this morning. I'm sorry.
Well, no. I think this leads right into actually which might be a clown take, but you're going to love it. I promised you would love it. I meant it. The Mets clinched a playoff berth yesterday. Now, let me explain why.
I have no idea where you're going with this.
And that's
they
fine.
Suck, but go ahead.
So, it is WrestleMania week. And there is a new wrestler in WWE called Danhausen. And he is the greatest thing to touch wrestling in recent times. And
why is that? I have no idea. I'm oblivious to
he has been begging to be on the production trucks for WWE since he started. He came in and his first promo was put me in the Hall of Fame. And he's been able to get over with fans and become a crowd sensation. And he has wrestled one single match his entire WWE career, and he is already the most popular wrestler in WWE. Yesterday, he was told that if he uncursed the Mets, that's part of his gimmick, is cursing people. If he uncurses people, he was requested by Brian Gerwitz, a former WWE writer, big Mets fan, if you uncurse the Mets, I will do everything in my power to get you on a truck. And he said, done. Where is the truck? The Mets are now uncursed, and they are in the best position for success that the Mets have ever been in because of Danhausen.
Are we rolling the tape on this?
Yes, we are.
Okay, because I don't believe in any of this hocus pocus nonsense, and that's what WWE is. It's entertainment. And if you're taking a team right now that's playing below expectations that should turn it around, Tim, the Mets have lost 8 in a row. 8 in a row. They are in last place in a crappy division with the Miami Marlins and the Washington Nationals. They, right now, have the 3rd worst record in the National League. In fact, there's only the White Sox being only worse in the American League. And they're going to play the Cubbies this weekend on the road. No shame in getting swept by the Dodgers, certainly. But for the Mets the previous week to get swept by the A's, and what are we losing the series to Arizona? What are we doing here? Sure. Some wrestler I've never heard of.
The Mets clinched a playoff berth yesterday.
I know. It's kind of like an old man take because like I don't like WWE there.
It'll be on ESPN this weekend for WrestleMania, the first time ever. So check it out. You got an hour in between perhaps Sabres games. Might be worth watching.
Yeah, there's so much going on right now, including the Yankees. They are down 2-1 to the Angels. Boy, the Angels have been kind of feisty. They still have a losing record, but at least you have Trout doing some things. Gosh, I thought he kind of left him for dead. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
and again, we'll mark this day down, April 16th. Long way to go here in the season. We got Chris Trapasso coming up. Which superstar said something today in sports? And no, it's not NBA, because you would think Giannis or whatever, but that might force a big trade this offseason. We'll get to that here as well. My name is Gene Battaglia, Tim Schneider, Dan DeLorean, and this is the Sports Bar on WGR Rochester.
Rochester.
Hey, it's Gino here for Window Nation. Spring has arrived. It's a great time to open your windows. And wait, your windows aren't opening easily. They leak when it rains. They have cracked glass. They need repainting. Again, well, getting top-quality custom-fit windows from Window Nation is easy and affordable. And right now, during the More You Buy, the More You Save sale, you can save up to 50% off all your windows. Plus, you can get them with 0 interest for 5 years. During uncertain times, one of the best investments you can make is in your home. In fact, experts report that windows retain 80% of their value. With Window Nation, you'll get windows that easily slide open and closed. They're made with top-quality seals so they won't leak when it's rainy or windy. And unlike other windows, they're maintenance-free. They're so good, Window Nation stands behind them with a lifetime warranty. And they're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. Don't wait to put an end to your window problems. Save big with Window Nation's The More You Buy, the More You Save sale going on now. Sale ends soon, so visit windownation.com now for a consultation.
Ace Swim and Leisure Spring Sale.
States only.
WROCAM, WBEE, HD2 Rochester, and everywhere you go at WGR Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. WGR Rochester. Sports Update.
We now know that Game 1 of the Sabres-Bruins will be coming up on Sunday. We just don't know the game time as of now. As for now, head coach Lindy Ruff on what he wants his players doing.
You know, everything's about preparing, taking care of yourself, eating, sleeping, everything. You know, doing all the little extra stuff from treatments and coming to the rink, getting everything you need. We have every tool for those guys to use to be ready to play Game 1.
Meanwhile, for the Amerks, Utica won last night, so the magic number remains at 1. Amerks have 3 cracks at this coming up this weekend, including the final home game of the regular season, Cleveland, tomorrow night. Over 10,000 tickets have been sold. Rochester Red Wings continue their series tonight against the Bisons. Down at Yankee Stadium, Angels leading the Yankees 2-1 in the 8th. Aaron Judge with his 8th home run of the season for New York. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
You're in the sports bar on WGR. Grab a drink, hang your coke, and sports talk. Live from Western New York. It's a master stroke. 9 times better than your typical host. 9 times. Gene and Tim have takes much hotter than most. No one cares when you're out. Sabres! Bills! Americans! Red Wings and Nighthawks! Sports bar! For Rochester Sports Talk.
Hour number 2 and what is going to be a fantastic week of sports coming up here. It's almost, I feel like we're the pregame show for what's ahead here. 1 week from today, it is the NFL draft, likely. Game 3, Buffalo at Boston. We know Game 1 is going to be on Sunday. Game number 2 will be, we think, Tuesday? We don't have a game time yet on Sunday, by the way. Thank you, NHL, for at least kind of piecemealing this. Come on. It's only a few days away. Welcome on in. Pull up a stool. Hour number 2, Chris DePasso joining us here. Bottom of this hour, we'll talk some NFL draft. Going back to last hour, because he mentioned this. Right now, the Amerks, they just still need the 1 point to get in. Utica went up to Belleville, and that might have been, I don't know, to say that's a high school game atmosphere would be doing disservice to the Section 5 high school games. There's nobody in the arena. And you could say, well, it's a Wednesday night. No, every game I ever watched from Belleville, just to see a green seats, I'm like, why, oh, why is this a thing in Belleville? Like,
Binghamton would take that team back.
Right. So, again, I said, and I'm knocking Belleville. What are they going to do? Like, ooh, mean man in Rochester knocking them. Credit Brian for sending this in. Pulling up the AHL attendance figures. Now, for the record, the Amerks kind of right in the middle of the pack. There are 32 teams, and the Amerks right now sit 17th. Now, that could creep up. They'll creep past Syracuse. I'll give you that, because more than 10,000 tomorrow night, that'll boost it up just a little bit. Tim, do you want to take a guess the only team that is worse than Belleville in terms of attendance in the American Hockey League?
I'm going to go and say Hartford.
The correct answer with 2,462, averaging 2,462. By comparison, that's less than RIT hockey. Much less. That would be the Utica Comets. Funny how Utica years ago, flapping their gums, social media guy, flexing his muscles. Boy, that's not good either. But it all comes down to ownership, what they're willing to tolerate. Team that's the top's Cleveland. And it's a major market. They're averaging 11,000 plus. Laval right behind them. But Laval, that's a suburb of Montreal. So they're just so hockey crazy up there. So, Brian, thank you for sending that in. We'll talk more NFL draft coming up here in a little bit. 585-866-4326 is our number to call in here. Or you can hit us up as Brian did. Our handle at WGR Rochester. You can hit me up. I'm at Gene Battaglia. Tim is at Womfump. We tease this, like there is one athlete that was sending out cryptic messages today. And today, around the NHL, and this will continue tomorrow because there are still some teams playing out west tonight, NHL locker cleanup day. Now, we've seen this over the years here in Buffalo, right, where hey, here's Ryan O'Reilly. I've lost my love of the game, sort of thing. And it always kind of provides, or say, for instance, the Jack Eichel drama surrounding him wanting to get the neck surgery. It's just not a good time. Fan base doesn't feel good. Media wants to get to the offseason. Players want to get to the offseason. The locker cleanout day is never a good vibe. So that's setting this up here, because if there is a franchise that has underachieved, not this year, not this decade, not this generation or your father's generation, this is before my lifetime. The last time the Toronto Maple Leafs won a cup, 1967. And for a hockey-crazy Toronto, how they never get it right. Now, if I could just kind of just simplify here, Dallas Cowboys equal Toronto Maple Leafs. They make money in Dallas, and Jerry's in control, but winning doesn't really affect the bottom line. They just continue to make money because people love the Cowboys, and Texas loves football. It's the same thing in Ontario, right? If winning was really going to affect the bottom line, you think they would have figured it out by now? But now you have a storyline this offseason I think it's worth monitoring. And if you back up, look, Austin Matthews wins a gold medal representing his country. And for some people north of the border, that put them off. So there's always been a, hey, with Austin Matthews, you're not one of us up there. But if he's winning and everything's fine, it's not really an issue, except they're not winning. And this was a terrible year up in Toronto. Now, this would have been the opportunity for Austin Matthews today to say, hey, you know what? This year was bad. I'm the leader on this team. I care about the people of Toronto, and I'm going to figure this out. And we will figure this out. And we're going to have some changes, I know, but I'm not in charge of those changes. But if there's things that I can control, I'm going to do everything in my control to make sure we get back to the postseason next year. And once we get back to the postseason, I like our chances. That's all he had to say today. Austin Matthews did not say that.
A lot of people projecting their thoughts on what you think of the future of this franchise and your place within it. I'm sure you've heard that. How do you view your future with the Leafs moving forward beyond the season?
Yeah, I mean, I can't predict the future. Obviously, there's steps that kind of have to, take place. They're going to hire new leadership at management and stuff like that. So, I don't really know. I think that's kind of, like I said, I can't really predict the future.
But for yourself personally, is this a place you want to be or would reject any suggestion that you should not be here for the remainder?
Yeah, I think all that stuff, there's always noise and there's always chatter. I think personally, I really don't pay attention to all that. I just focus on myself, focus on this team, and, trying to be a part of the solution.
Answer the question, you coward! The question is, are you want to be here? There's always noise. There's always something. Hey, do you what? Like, that was as mamby-pamby as you could get. Why not just say, I would like to be traded to the LA Kings or whatever? Like, you don't realize it, or maybe you do. Maybe that was the plan all along, because let me tell you a little story. Going back to Ryan O'Reilly, I lost my love of the game. We ran him out of town. And then he goes and wins a cup with the Blues. That was the guy who ran out of town. Now, should point out that trade netted you Tage Thompson.
And somebody who retired immediately, but we don't need to talk about that.
Can we listen? I want to listen to this whole thing. Right. Like, yeah, that was, what was that guy's name?
Sabatka, I believe.
Thank you. Yeah, another, like, at some point we're going to have to, great moments. By great moments, I mean not great moments in Sabre history. This was Austin Matthews and getting asked direct questions and just being so cryptic and wimpy today with the Toronto media.
A lot of people projecting their thoughts on what you think of the future of this franchise and your place within it. I'm sure you've heard that. How do you view your future with the Leafs moving forward beyond the season?
Yeah, I can't predict the future. Obviously, there's steps that kind of have to, take place. They're going to hire new leadership at management and stuff like that. So, I don't really know. I think that's kind of, like I said, I can't really predict the future.
But for yourself personally, is this a place you want to be or would reject any suggestion that you should not be here for the remainder of your life?
Yeah, I think all that stuff, I mean, there's always noise and there's always chatter. I think personally, I really don't pay attention to all that. I just focus on myself, focus on this team, and, trying to be a part of the solution.
Okay, the follow-up there from the reporter is you didn't answer the question. Answer the question. I always I can't predict the future. Okay. Who can? I don't know. Every year there's going to be changes to some degree. Hey, I can't predict the future. It's like saying, well, I'm not a doctor, Of course not.
Austin Matthews, you are a Buffalo Sabre. Sign me up.
No,
How about that future?
No.
Come on.
No. Come on, Tim. Tim, that's a hot takey clickbait take. Like, you're not met. If the Sabres bow out to Boston, and by the way, it's the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. Anything can happen. That's what makes it great, right? Like, these games are all going to we have forgotten how nauseating and stressful games are going to be. And don't live in the Twitter moment, meaning, oh my gosh, did you see that Sabre power play? Tweet. Fire Seth Apper, tweet. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Put a pin in it. Wait till after the series is over, because there are going to be ups, there are going to be downs, and just kind of enjoy. But to say the Sabres should be – no, if the worst-case scenario happens, Sabres swept by Boston, we'll say, damn, that sucks. But, man, that was fun, and here's what needs to change. By the way, I think they do beat Boston. Now, you want to talk about who can they beat, Montreal or Tampa? Okay, I'll say this. Like, if they get by Montreal or Tampa, I think they get to the Cup final. Like, that is going to be a tougher test than Carolina. I understand Carolina has more points. Carolina also played in the easier division. And Carolina, who knows? We're assuming they're going to just kind of coast past Ottawa and, Sidney Crosby or whatever. Carolina has an easy path to get to the conference final. If the Sabres can navigate their way out of this Atlantic schmozzle, that'll be a lot of fun. 585-866-4326. Chris Trapasso will be coming up in just a little bit. We talked earlier about how Live Golf, this will be the last year the Saudis are going to fund this. There's one other golf note, is that Florida prosecutors have filed a motion to subpoena Tiger Woods to obtain his prescription drug records in 2026, beginning January 1st. To the day of the crash, which was back on March 27th. Now, Tiger's attorneys are fighting this, and again, I'm just going to stick as best I can, because there will come a day where maybe Tiger is playing in a tournament, or Tiger will actually be in a major. Who knows? Maybe we get that next spring. How's Tiger doing at Augusta National? Tiger Woods is our generation's Mickey Mantle, where I always kind of pointed to the older generation saying, why do you like this guy so much? The guy was a drunk and a womanizer, and he wasted his talent. Well, Mickey Mantle obviously had issues, and maybe it's not alcohol, maybe it's something else, but Tiger Woods has his demons too, and I think it's just kind of like, yeah, if you're kind of the younger generation to us, I imagine they're doing the same thing. Why do we love Tiger so much, a guy past his prime? It's a fair question. Chris Trapasso will be joining us here in just a little bit. Time for your calls on the other side at 585-866-4326. Dan DeLorean, Tim Schneider, and my name is Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
WGR Rochester Sports Update.
Game 1, Sabres-Bruins. We know it will be on Sunday. We just don't know the time as of yet. Lindy Ruff says his team knows who they are.
Well, I think we know what our identity is. We've battled hard all year. The consistency level of our team has been excellent. The hard compete, the blocking shots, all that part of that game is, you don't get to where we got if you don't have that part of the game. And I think they've proved that. But we remained pretty darn consistent for the last 4 months.
To the Amerks, where Utica won last night, so the magic number remains at 1. The Amerks get 3 cracks at this, including the final home game of the regular season tomorrow night against Cleveland. The Wings continue their series tonight at home against the Buffalo Bisons. Angels lead the Yankees 2-1. They are in the third. Aaron Judge with his 8th home run of the season for New York. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, WGR Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing. I'm oblivious to this. Welcome back to the Sports Bar. Gene Battaglia with you, where we are now, of course, streaming on YouTube and Twitch. As Randy wrote in, Gene Housen does not believe in Danhausen and is now cursed. What does that mean?
You are cursed.
Cursed? What does that mean? I'm cursed.
You don't. We will find out the hard way. I think something not great's going to happen, and it's because you don't believe that the Mets clinched a playoff berth yesterday because of Danhausen.
No, I don't believe in any of this hokey pokey wrestling stuff,
and that's why you are cursed.
I should have asked if Chris Passo is watch. Chris loves wrestling. Chris, that busy time of year, 1 week away from the NFL draft. Chris, appreciate your time today. How are you?
I'm doing really good, and I used to watch wrestling when I was a kid, but I really don't have the time with wife, 2 kids, and everything NFL in my life, but I do know that there are a lot of people that are still very much into it.
Yeah, it was something where I watched when I was a kid, and then it was kind of fun to rediscover that when my son was about 8 or 9, and then he grew out of it, and we're on to the next stuff here. Chris, draftgradebook.com, where people can go check out this. And before we ask questions specifically on the defensive side of the ball, what might fit for Buffalo at 26, give us an idea here, because the Jim Leonhard defense, I don't know what the Bills have and what their needs are. If you're going from what was kind of a 4-3 to a 3-4 on the defensive line, of the returning players, who is best fit for this new adjustment, and who might have some issues amongst the returning players here, Chris?
Well, I think that's obviously a really good starting point, and I'm going to go with somewhat of a probably unpopular answer in that I think up front they actually have more of the bodies needed to just do the dirty work and to eat blockers and to keep the linebackers clean. I think someone in Landon Jackson, the Bills' 3rd-round pick last year, who tore his ACL early, I believe it was in that Dolphins game relatively early on, I don't think he has much upside if they're trying to deploy him as an outside linebacker rusher. And Brandon Beane has said he's going to be that 5 technique aligned straight up with the offensive tackle. He's going to 2 gap, so he's going to control the gap to his left and his right to free up linebackers. I think TJ Sanders probably could have been and was drafted to be the understudy to Ed Oliver. He's a bigger body, longer arms. He'd also be that block-eating type on the interior. It's probably best for Deion Walker because he's that classic nose tackle type who can also get upfield, like we saw in his rookie season that I think was very, very underrated. It was one of the best rookie defensive lineman seasons that we saw in the NFL last year, regardless of round selected. And I think the real difference will just be on early downs, we'll see more 3-man fronts. They're still going to be in nickel probably 60 to 70% of the time like the rest of the league. Now, Sean McDermott's defense was getting up close to 90% of the time in nickel. I don't think we'll see that as much from Jim Leonhard. The biggest difference, though, too, will be an uptick in blitz percentage. And we saw in the second half of a lot of those games last season where the Bills really turned it on. They blitzed a lot. We'll see that from the outset from Jim Leonhard. And we will see blitzes of all varieties. We will see a safety flying in way late on the play. We will see A-gap blitzes from the linebackers. We'll see corner blitzing more frequently. We'll see where Deion Walker might drop into coverage and confuse the quarterback to then have an outside linebacker rushing on the opposite side of the defense. So I think the confusion will really come more so with what the offensive line is doing in terms of protections, as opposed to, I think Sean McDermott was very good at disguising in the back seven and the coverages being different. With Jim Leonhard, it's really all about the guys doing the dirty work up front against the run and creating just different picture post-snap up front with the blitzing than what we saw from Sean McDermott.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a lot of candidates there. What about the second level? And I guess let's start here, Chris, because I think for kind of, people like myself from the outside, like you understand like positional value when it comes to the running back position. Don't draft a running back in the first round unless you're really, really sure. Where do you come down just in general on the linebacker position? Is that kind of the same thing, or should you invest a little bit more? And the main question is, and I don't know the answer to this, what do the Bills kind of put into that position in terms of value?
Well, that's another good question too, because I think it's similar, and that if you just look at the history, there's just at least the last 5 to 7 years, there's just not that many linebackers who are actually picked in the first round. We've had Jack Campbell a few years ago. Jahad Campbell was one of the last picks in the first round last year, had a great season in Philly. It's a great question because I think the league doesn't show us that they value off-ball linebacker very much because there have not been many first-rounders at that position. But if you look around the league, and you can even just look over the last 8 years with the Bills, most of the teams that have really good defenses have quality linebackers. And I think it's very hard to find one that can be that three-down player, like thinking Matt Milano in his prime, splash plays against the run, sideline-to-sideline range, and then ability in coverage. So I think also, too, what factors in the financial disparity between getting a first-round linebacker on that rookie deal. It's not going to cost you very much. To the top of the linebacker position, where Fred Warner, Roquan Smith are making $18 to $20 million a year. You compare that to edge rushers making $40, and obviously quarterbacks making $60, and offensive tackles making in the high 30s. That's where I think teams don't love to get not as much of a financial surplus as they could get at other positions. So I think it's important. I think that is the one of the two positions that the Bills did not address in free agency. I think Dorian Williams is a great fit on paper as that thumping inside linebacker in Jim Leonhard's defense. But Terrell Bernard has been good, but he's been injured. So it's a position that I don't think they absolutely need to address at 26, because if you have a good pass rush, good corners, good secondary, good safeties, you can get by in today's NFL. But it's certainly a spot that I would be very surprised if the Bills waited until, one of those two fifth-round picks to address off-ball linebacker.
Let's say they decide maybe to trade down a little bit, and then certainly that would be a possibility. What are your thoughts on Jacob Rodriguez? Because his numbers, his stats, but you've watched the film here, Chris. Would he be a fit in this Bills defense?
Yeah, I would like that a lot more with really any of the linebackers if they do want to go in that direction, and that means trading back what you just suggested. That I think Jacob Rodriguez has the size of a Sean McDermott linebacker. He's not super big, but he kind of fits the modern-day mold, like around 6 foot, 230, 235 pounds. And the former quarterback at Texas Tech transfers over to the other side of the ball, which you don't see very frequently, and I think that shows in his ability in coverage. He made a bunch of plays, interceptions, pass breakups last year behind what was a really, really good defensive line at Texas Tech. They had a great season. He would be someone that I think that the ability to shed blockers, because he's got shorter arms and he's not super big, that dings him a little, and that's why I wouldn't be screaming from the rooftops, hey, they got to pick him at 26. But I think any of the linebackers, if they could trade back with Arizona for that team to come up to get Ty Simpson or something like that, they get that extra day 2 pick, and then they get the linebacker, then I think that would make a lot more sense in terms of just draft navigation by Brandon Beane.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us are warming up to the idea of trading back because you do need more picks, you do need more depth. But realistically, and that Arizona one is interesting, and Ty Simpson certainly is a player that, your team needs a quarterback. Don't wait until the second round there. Realistically, though, what could the Bills, the draft grades and the formula is better. Are we talking trading back and netting an extra third rounder? What could that potentially look like, Chris?
Yeah, I think what you just outlined is probably the starting point. But what's interesting is that there's been so much buzz about, maybe this draft teams could could move up at somewhat of a discount because everyone wants to move back. And while I think that's true, and while even if the Cardinals do feel reasonably sold on Ty Simpson, to not pick him obviously at 3, but maybe pick him later in the first round at, say, 26, the Bills can look to last year's trade that the Houston Texans made with the New York Giants for the Giants to move up to 25 to get Jackson Dart. And that was an early second. Obviously, you trade from 25 into the mid-30s. They got a third rounder, and then they also got a third rounder this year. So they got a future third. And if you look at the history of draft day trades and where they ultimately are slotted, you can look at, okay, if this pick in 2023, the 16th overall pick was traded, and then it's traded again the next year, the trades are almost always, all right, where was that trade? What was the compensation last year? You need to actually do a little bit better for that. There's inflation when it comes to the NFL as well. So I think just getting a third rounder, maybe the Bills would settle on that and what is kind of a down quarterback draft just to get out, to get that extra third. But I think they could say, hey, look, the Giants moved up and paid 2 third-rounders to get from the mid-30s to 25 last year to pick Jackson Dart.
Chris Trapasso, proudly from the 585. He's one of us.
Yes, definitely.
Draftgradebook.com. Chris coming out to original draft shows, and it's just great to see all the content that you're putting out there. Chris, I think that a safety would make sense for Buffalo in this draft as well. And before we talk about who might be a fit, was it the Sean McDermott defense? Because we always heard like the responsibilities and, it was complicated and kind of backing that up. It took a little more than a year for Cole Bishop to click in and now he's part of the future. Was that a McDermott thing, or is that just in general it takes a while for at that position in this league? Because if the Bills do draft a safety, could we expect realistically that safety to compete with a C.J. Gardner-Johnson or a Geno Stone or whatever else, Damar Hamlin, whatever those the Bills might be throwing back there?
I think it's more of the latter, and I just referenced about linebackers that it's very rare to see a rookie linebacker come in and just be awesome in coverage. And safeties in today's NFL are a lot of them are handling similar duties to linebackers, and they just have to cover more, obviously. So unless you are Kyle Hamilton coming in as the freak of freak athletes, and even him, it took him a little bit of time to really settle in Baltimore. Now he's, one of the best defensive players in football. Even if they picked a safety at 26 to think of the long-term solution at that spot next to Cole Bishop, I would kind of pump my brakes on thinking, hey, this guy can come in and be, a rookie of the year type player, because it is very hard to understand positioning, and you're going to be targeted as a rookie safety, that they're going to try to put a dig route in front of you so you kind of crash down on that dig route, and they're going to throw a post over your head. You need to be very instinctive beyond just athletic. But what is good for the Bills, having kind of been spoiled at the safety spot from the Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer days, Jim Leonard obviously was a former safety that was one of the headiest players in the league. So yes, Sean McDermott did a tremendous job developing safeties during his time in Buffalo, but a lot of signs point to Jim Leonard should probably have a good intel on how to become a quality, highly intelligent safety, having played safety in the NFL himself.
Yeah, question about one prospect, Dylan Thieneman. Hopefully I said that correctly. At 26, is that too high, Chris? What are your thoughts on this prospect from Oregon?
I absolutely love him. I think so. He's my safety one ahead of Caleb Downs. I know Caleb Downs, coming from Alabama and Ohio State, has all the pedigree. His brother's Josh Downs on the Colts. He's going to be really good. Dylan Thieneman is a little bigger. We didn't see Caleb Downs work out, but Thieneman ran 4.35, had a 41-inch vertical. He had 6 interceptions as a true freshman at Purdue. Transfers to Oregon, has 4 interceptions last season, like 80, 90, 100 tackles a season, all around the football. And he has a lot of those Kyle Hamilton type skills in terms of twitchiness, range, instincts, ball skills. So he's someone that now, because of the presence of C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you mentioned Geno Stone, we saw a huge leap from Cole Bishop, that suddenly is not near the top of the priority list, most likely for the Bills position-wise at 26. But if Thieneman was still there, if Caleb Downs goes, there's that safety from Toledo, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, if he's also gone and Thieneman is just sitting there at 26, I think that would have to be, look, we're throwing out our positional needs because he would be the best player on the board most likely.
Yeah, Chris Trapasso, our guest here. I don't think this player I'm going to ask you about will be at 26, but I think it is a storyline. That being about Ruben Bain. So for folks who haven't heard, Ruben Bain, hey, the top 10, most mock drafts. Hey, we just kind of learned last week he was involved in an accident that resulted in a fatality in 2024. He was not charged with any crime. We should point that out, but who knows where that might go from the civil end. Chris, your thoughts on the player and a storyline like that, will that affect his draft stock? Because, hey, what we do here, like myself and fans on the outside, and we learned this with Shedeur Sanders, is completely different than NFL personnel people that maybe they knew about all this. Bottom line is, where do you pencil in Ruben Bain? Your thoughts here on him?
So I still think Ruben Bain will be a top 10 pick. And this incident coming out like about it was like a few days ago. So it was like 10 days before the draft it came out. It doesn't seem to be, and I texted around a little, it doesn't seem to be as big of a problem. If you remember in, I think, 22, Jalen Carter of the then Georgia and now the Eagles obviously had like a major car accident incident on his resume that was like had just happened, and it was like up in the air, and it came out at the combine. It was kind of a surprise to teams. The fact that this happened in 2024, you mentioned that Bain was not charged with anything. To me, I think that was, I mean, it can be reckless, it can be ruthless. I think that was more of a team wanting Ruben Bain to fall and just leaking that to the media to say, oh yeah, hey, by the way, this happened 2 years ago. The biggest storyline on the field with Bain is his film looks like he absolutely should be a top 10 pick, but he's a little bit short and he has arms in the first percentile in terms of length. And he is someone that tries to use his really chiseled arms with a club move, with an arm over, with a bull rush. And he's going to be dealing with really long offensive tackles regardless of the quality of team he's playing in the NFL. So I like him. I'm not in the camp of like he should be the second overall pick. He's going to be a future All-Pro. I'm a little bit lower because I do think in the NFL you are dealing with freak athletes, especially on the offensive line for every team. And if Ruben Bain tries a club move or a hump move where he's trying to throw the offensive lineman to the side, he could do that in the ACC. He did it well in the college football playoff. Against NFL tackles, I think that will be a little bit of a learning curve for him. So probably will still be picked somewhere in the top 10 just because back-to-back years his film was so good, and he is a very ferocious, powerful player. But I do think there comes time in the NFL where those or not necessarily athletic, but those size limitations or deficiencies can get the best of a player. If I was a GM picking inside the top 10, I would want to be able to check as many boxes as possible and not pick someone that had first percentile arm length at the edge rusher spot.
Okay, that's Chris Trapasso. Last one for you, Chris. And look, the wide receiver position, this is where we're all going to gravitate to. I myself have said I would love to see Casey Concepcion and be reunited here in Rochester. But if it ends up being, hey, at 26, and I do think there are needs in other areas for this team, what about day two? Like it's a Bills team that needs to invest somewhere in this draft here. Options at say the third round for Buffalo, in your opinion, if they wait on wide receiver.
Totally agree with you on Casey Concepcion. I feel like I said that on that show or on this show earlier in draft season. Separation abilities through the roof, great in contested catch situations. He's exactly the type of receiver the Bills need. But you're right, maybe he's gone. Maybe a bunch of the receivers are gone. Those perceived top 4 to top 5 are not there. The Bills go maybe defense then in the first round. At 91, Ted Hurst from Georgia State is probably my favorite. I think the fact that he was at Georgia State could maybe be the reason that he's available late in the third round because he is tall, he is fast. Over 1,000 yards last season, contested catch winner on a regular basis, ran in the low 4.4s, just looks like that vertical threat that the Bills need on the outside. I really like Jeremy Bernard from Alabama. I don't think he'll ever be an all-pro, but I could see him having like a Robert Woods-like career where he's just solid. He's good blocker, 6'2", 205, was never really a high-volume guy at Alabama, but there weren't a lot of games where he was held without a catch. He's someone that I think was just rock solid, that could start as that wide receiver 3 or 4 in Buffalo and kind of grow into a bigger role. And then one other name's interesting. I don't know how Joe Brady feels about this, and we certainly haven't seen Brandon Beane pick too many like this. Brennan Thompson from Mississippi State. He's about my size. He's little. He's like 5'8", 180 pounds, but ran in the high 4.2s, had the fastest 40-yard dash at the combine, and actually reminded me a lot. My comparison for him is Brandon Cooks, because he is not Marquise Goodwin that is just a speedster. He can throttle down, change directions, separate at the intermediate level and down the field, and he tracks it like a center fielder. So he's someone that if he was 2 or 3 inches taller and weighed 200 pounds, he absolutely would be a first-round pick, but his size could actually sink him to that pick at 91 for the Bills, where he could maybe be that vertical threat that I think we can all agree Josh Allen and this offense has kind of been missing since John Brown hasn't been on the team.
Let me ask you one more, because there's rumors, and there's all sorts of rumors here. 30 seconds. Skylar Bell, UConn. What do you think of Bell being? He's a Biletnikoff Award finalist, Chris.
I really like him. He's someone that I think because of the DJ Moore trade, the Bills don't have to go with an outside X big receiver. Just get the best player. You have your slot, you have your outside player, you have Cook, Kincaid, Skylar Bell. Go look at his combine and his pro day. He tested absolutely through the roof. I don't think he's going to create much after the catch like Shakir, but in terms of route pacing and route salesmanship, he absolutely has that. And I think ever so often he can take the lid off the defense. So Skylar Bell is another name at 91 or early in the 4th round who would make sense because he can separate, and I think that's what the Bills need most.
Chris, tell everybody about Draft Gradebook, where they can follow you, where they can get more of your content as we're 1 week out from the draft.
Sure. Thanks, Gene. Draftgradebook.com is just the site that I built. This draft cycle launched in early March. It's a scouting report archive. I have all my scouting reports on the site from 2021 on, but obviously mostly focusing on getting as many scouting reports done for the 2026 class. There's grades. There are NFL comparisons. You can search with an AI search to just type in whatever you want to find on there. And I will be running a draft day mode that'll have a draft tracker, best available, and everything for you to follow next weekend, which is going to be a marathon, but it's always a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. You do a great job. Draftgradebook.com. Chris, be well. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, Gene. Appreciate it.
Chris Trapasso, our guest. We will wrap it up. We'll tell you what's coming up the show tomorrow. Gene Battaglia with you here, WGR Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
During the break, I always kind of go to social media just to see the feedback, and we had a great interview with Sal Capaccio. Chris Trapasso, hopefully got a lot out of that. He does a great job. But then popping up at the top of my screen, WGR Rochester tweeting this out. There can only be a couple people. I don't think it's Dan DeLorean. I think it's you, Tim, that did this.
You are cursed.
WGR Rochester right now. Hello, Mr. Danhausen. Our very own Gene, you tag me, doesn't think you uncursed the Mets yesterday, and so now he is cursed, right? Very nice, very evil. Okay, so very nice, very evil, is that his
One
tag?
of his catchphrases,
That's
yes.
one of his catchphrases. And then I look over at whoever Danhausen is, and he looks like this is like a young version of Gene Simmons. Like, this is all this is. He's wearing a cape, and he's wearing, like, the Kiss makeup. And I'm supposed to believe
He's to be taken very seriously, and you were digging yourself quite a hole.
I was like, what? Ooh.
You are
It's right
cursed.
on the it's right on the Odyssey app. Wow, Mr. Wrestler is going to curse me.
You're in a dangerous territory. Get home safe.
Tomorrow on the show, we will be talking here to Matthew Fairburn. It's been years since we did a Fairburn Friday, but with the Sabres postseason. And, oh, by the way, when's the Sabre game? It's on Sunday. We don't know the time. Game 1 Sunday in Buffalo, Bruins and Sabres. We'll talk to Matthew Fairburn tomorrow. Amherst hockey tomorrow night as they're taking on Cleveland. Amherst get to the overtime tomorrow, and they're back in the postseason. Miss any today's show, Sal Capaccio, Chris Trapasso, Dan DeLorean has it chopped up wherever you get your fine audio, including the Odyssey app. For Tim Schneider, my name is Gene Battaglia. Shope and the Bulldog coming your way next on 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.